Is everyone ready at the assembled group?
Yes, Chanel, thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks. This is Community Board 2, Manhattan Landmarks and Public Aesthetics Committee, and it's the second of 2 meetings for this month. In order to facilitate the public comment section, the meeting sign-in sheet has been placed in the chat. Please fill it out if you wish to speak. Please ensure that your camera and microphone are off, and you'll be elevated to panelist when your name is called. At that time, please turn on your camera and microphone and give your name and your connection to the project, neighbor, organization representative, or an association with the project. Be sure to turn your camera and microphone off when you have finished speaking. The order will be the presentation by the applicant and the comments in the following order: elected officials, invited guests, public members of the public, members of the board, and members of the committee. Following the presentation, there'll be a business session of the committee to form the resolutions. Everyone is invited to remain, however, only members of the committee may participate. The first application is 145 Grand Street to remove a front exterior fire escape. When you're ready, please.
Okay, share.
That might be.
You're gonna want to turn off your mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Turn off the video?
Yeah, nope. Turn off your sound and turn off your mic, your speakers too.
On
please.
your
Oh,
device.
How's that now? Yep, okay. Are you folks getting an echo? Apparently not. Okay.
so I'm trying
You
to
have to
share.
screen share.
Share. Open system settings.
And then you just gotta,
Oh, sorry. I go to share
yeah. Do that.
and desktop,
And then
Nice.
share blue right here.
share.
System settings. And then you're gonna turn that toggle right here. The bottom one.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, there you go.
Who's the password? Mine?
Yeah.
Not ours, yeah.
Oh, okay. You may not be able to record your content. Quit and reopen.
Yeah.
Leave webinar?
Mhm.
No? Cancel.
Okay, so I'm not sure what's going on here.
I mean, I have.
So
Do you
where's
have-
share? Where's
Just
share?
Share.
Okay,
Click on that.
and then
Here
where's
it
your
is.
presentation?
Right
There
there.
it is. Okay, now hit share.
There you go.
And like magic.
Hey, that's great. Thank you. And it says allow. Oh, I don't guess.
Yeah.
Allow. Okay. Oh, I blew it. Blew a screen sharing.
You're good, you're screen sharing.
Oh,
Oh, you just have
But
to go back to the,
how do I go back?
was it a PDF or something?
Yeah, it's a PDF.
Yeah, this Acrobat, I think.
Ah, here it is. Okay. Good evening, CB2. My name is Robert Tan. I'm with Gerard and Tan Architects, and we are presenting 145 Grand Street in New York City. It's on the south side of Grand Street between Crosby and Lafayette. This is an IMD building, jurisdiction with the New York City Law Board. And we are legalizing the residential units on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floor. We are not doing anything to the ground floor, and we're not doing anything to the facade except for removing the fire escape. The building under multiple dwelling law, or the loft law, states that this level or this building, if it is fully sprinklered, which we are planning to do, is allowed to have one means of egress. And that means of egress is the stair that is in the building. How do I move this thing? Oh, I just go this way. Okay. So here this shows you the location of 145 Grand. It's in the Soho extension. And the site plan is on to the left. Building was built in, I believe, 1821 to 22. It was a 2-story building, and 2 more stories, 3rd and 4th floor was added in 1866. At that time, there was no fire escape. And and then in the, I would say, early 19th century, fire escapes were put on for safety reasons. These are the tax photographs at 145, and you can see the fire escape. The balconies, the fire escape balconies, are just simple vertical steel square sections. They're not anything ornate or design or anything like that. So there's no historical architectural features that would warrant maintaining it. And this is the current condition from the corners, from the street level, on the Crosby side street, and there is a park, Rapkin Gale Plaza, and we took a photograph from the furthest point of it, and you can see the building there. This is the drawings showing the fire escape, and the removal of it is on the right. And this is a photograph, kind of a photo rendered of the existing condition and without the fire escape. And that's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody in the room from the public who wants to speak about this? No, you're here for Canal Street. So, all right, is there anybody online who would like to speak or has a question about this application? All right, Pete.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you very much. I'm going to stay as a panelist, not so. Just came up in my screen. No, you're confusing me. Okay, here we go. So I'm curious. I'm glad to hear the architect mention that this is an IMD building with loft tenants inside. That now, because the building is not sprinklered yet, they depend upon this fire escape for safe egress. Similar situation happened in my loft building, where we had what was said to be adequate means of multiple egress. The landlord applied to landmarks to remove the fire escape. We pointed out that that was a means of egress. It was needed, and the fire escape remains. The application was withdrawn. So I don't understand why this landlord is making the choice to remove this fire escape when it provides safe egress to the tenants, and it also provides safe entry for the fire department. Also, I would like to point out that there is an apparent non-permitted installation in the front of the building, the gate and the enclosure that leads to the basement, and that seems to be an obvious violation that should be attended to before this matter of choice. Thank you very much.
Would you like to answer his question?
Sure. I don't know the size of your building that you live in, but this is a small building, and if you think that the fire department and the buildings department in a fully sprinklered building wouldn't allow for safe passage, then I think we need to discuss that with the Department of Buildings. It is allowed. The owner doesn't want to maintain the fire escape, and by removing it, and he's spending all his money, a lot of money, to fully sprinkler the building, and it's allowed by code, then that is, I think, his prerogative. But obviously, we have to go to the community board as well as landmarks.
Thank you. Any other questions from the public? All right. Anybody here from the board who wishes to speak? No? Okay. I think we can move to the committee now. All right, Sean.
Then, but if people are living there now, how are you going to sprinkler? Remove the fire escape, then add sprinklers while they're living there?
No. We keep the fire escape until the sprinklers are installed, and
Could there be a better microphone for Sean? Sean, just turn around, address
Oh,
more
I
the
see, I
microphone than the camera.
Yeah, my question was, if there's no sprinkler now and you remove the fire escape, what's going to happen to the tenants? Or are you going to put a sprinkler system in when there are tenants still living there? Do they know that?
Yeah, yes, the process with a IMD building is that the loft board adjudicates a or conference between the owners and the tenants. The tenants have a right to hire an architect and an attorney to go over the owner's plans, and the owner has plans as well as a narrative statement which outlines what has to be done to the building and to each unit. Okay, and then we have a conference which we present everything, and the tenants have a right to agree or disagree. And if they disagree, and the owner wants to keep pursuing it, they have a right to file what they call alternate plans. And then they can see if the DOB will accept that or not. The tenant's architect, Alex Naratov, and I agreed that a sprinklered building is a much safer building than it is when it's without. You have to understand, if there is a fire, sprinkler head would go off and will douse that fire enough.
Oh, I just did my 5-year sprinkler test last week. I'm very familiar.
Okay.
So, but
Go ahead. So anyway, the whole issue is we have to put the sprinkler system in, have it tested, have it approved, ready to go, and then we will remove the fire escape.
while the tenants are there, they'll either agree or disagree to install. In other words, you won't take the fire escape out before you put the sprinkler system.
Absolutely not. We will. The last thing that gets off.
Okay, I just want to make that
fire
clear.
escape.
No, but what are you going to address the violation of the roll down gates? I think they're even passing a law in the city that not even outside of historic districts can you put in roll down gates.
It wasn't.
So it's a
Sorry.
violation.
It wasn't brought up. I will check the violations.
You should.
Because even last.
Excuse me, this is not before, so just to note it is sufficient.
Well, I think it's a forum to
You don't
notify.
need
I think it's a
that-
forum to notify people if there's a standing violation put up well beyond designation date. A well-known. No, not a rule. It reminds me of Brownsville in like 1976 when I see a roll down gate.
Is it a
Riots going on, you know?
solid?
Then if there's an objection, that should be filed with the Landmarks Commission
Okay,
and go through the process.
I know the process,
That's kind of where that.
but he's here. I wanted to ask him and bring it to his attention.
Right. So if that's.
Because it might hold up the construction of the piping of the sprinkler if you have a violation because of you won't get a building permit, right?
I don't know. I think we will get we might.
If you have a violation, if you have a landmarks violation.
But before we're able to get the CO, all violations have to be cleared.
Okay.
So, it's not necessarily, that might be impediment, but it will be an impediment at the time of getting a TCO or a CO.
Right,
Okay.
so I don't think anybody disagrees that it's a good idea to
Right.
violation.
Oh, sure,
So,
absolutely.
Thank you,
you.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Sue.
Chanel, do you have any questions or?
Yes, I just want to be clear. In order to avoid the expense of maintaining the fire escape, the building is having sprinklers installed, and then the fire escape is to be removed. Am I correct in that narrative?
That's correct.
And that's the reason for installing the sprinklers.
Well, no, it's not only the reason, but it's code. When we're converting a building, conversion to residential from a manufacturing or commercial building to residential, now the law requires a fully sprinkled building.
Oh, that's why.
Oh, so you're saying that the sprinklers must be there whether or not there's a fire escape.
That's correct. And because we're putting in the sprinkler, we are allowed not to have a second means of egress in this small building. If this building was larger, say 5,000 square feet or more, depending on how it's configured, may not apply and may require two means of egress.
And are these floor through units? And is there a fire escape on the back?
There is no fire escape in the back, and they are floor through units.
Okay.
That's all.
Wooden staircase, right? Wooden?
I don't remember, but it might be a wooden staircase.
Arturo, did you have a question?
Not at the moment.
Okay, good. All right, unless,
Okay,
Privately, I want to ask you.
Sure, no problem.
okay,
Okay.
I think
I'll be
we,
finished with this.
yes, I think we can move
Okay.
on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very clear.
Thank you.
The next application is for 151 Grand Street to review modifications to a prior presentation for rooftop addition. This application was previously heard, and a resolution was approved and sent to the commission, which ultimately approved the application. Our only meaningful objection was the rooftop addition, so we're now going to see a modified version of it that the commission has requested we review. And there was a last minute change in the application materials. So would the applicant please, if they're meaningful to what's being discussed, point out where the differences are? Thank you.
Good evening.
Oh,
I'm just going to let the rest of the team jump on, and then I'll go ahead and share my screen. All right. Can you all see that okay?
yes, thank you.
Wonderful. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Julie Rosen from Higgins Quays Barth and Partners. We're the preservation consultants on this project. I'm joined this evening by my colleagues Cass Stackelberg and Sarah Ripple, as well as James Bush from ASK Consulting Services and Dane Barnes from BHK Engineering. So this is 151 Grand Street. You all may remember this building from our visit to you many years ago, but it's located at the southwest corner of Grand Street and Lafayette Street in the Soho-Cast Iron Historic District extension. It's a 6-story L-shaped building. It was historically a store and loft building constructed in 1889 and designed by Athen W.E. Bloodgood and John B. Snook and Sons. As Chenault mentioned, in 2016, LPC approved a full building rehabilitation project, which included the construction of an L-shaped rooftop addition, which was set back from the primary facades, and a rear yard extension. And rendered views from that approval are shown here. LPC found this project appropriate, and they issued a certificate of appropriateness permit, which has since expired, and so we are now seeking the reinstatement of that permit. So just to take you through the project timeline from when you would have originally seen this project through to today. So between 2015 and 2016, the design went through a number of iterations before it was formally approved by LPC at a public meeting in August of 2016. In January of 2017, the Certificate of Appropriateness Permit was issued, and this formalized the approval of a comprehensive scope of work on the building, which included the construction of a 1-story setback rooftop addition, as well as a rear yard extension to house a new stair. The scope included new wood windows installed on the 2 primary facades, as well as new window openings installed on the secondary elevations. There was a comprehensive facade restoration scope, which comprised masonry repairs, cast iron repairs throughout the building, including at the storefront and cornice, as well as masonry cleaning. There was a full storefront restoration proposed with new wood infill, a barrier-free access ramp, and sidewalk repairs. And I'll take you through some of the details of those items later, but that's the high level scope of work that the C of A approved. And so it was a really substantial scope of work, including a lot of restorative scope. In
Okay.
April,
We won't require all those details because it's only the rooftop addition that's been sent to us.
well, so we are asking for, and I'll go through this. So the C of A did include all of this scope. And so we just want to make sure that we're presenting the full scope of work to you. We are
Okay.
not actually proposing any design changes to the approval, but we want to make sure that you see the full scope of work so that we can get the permit reinstated.
I understand. Then I'll readjust the description.
Oh, okay.
of what's
Okay.
the case. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So in April of 2019, construction work did begin on the building. There was quite a bit of work that was completed in the first year of the construction. Within that first year, the full building was scaffolded, steel framing for the rooftop addition was constructed. That's relevant because I will show you existing conditions photos with that steel framing up on the building. All of the roof deck concrete was poured. Interior steel framing and carpentry was also installed and plumbing work had started. But in 2020, when non-essential construction work was suspended during COVID, the project was shut down. The shutdown put financial strain on the project, and the building subsequently went into foreclosure. And it was during this period that the permit expired. So our C of A permit actually expired in August of 2022, and there has been no work done on this project since COVID shut the project down. But the really good news here is that in February of this year, the property was purchased by a new ownership entity with the goal of completing the construction per the original LPC approval. But again, in order to do that, we do need the C of A permit reinstated so that the team can pull new DOB permits and proceed with the construction. And Chanel, you also mentioned this, but just for background for the committee, so you all would have last seen this project in 2015 when the proposal included a more visible metal clad addition, and this is what we have shown on the right. But through the LPC review process, the addition was reduced in overall scale and height, and the material was also changed to brick. So the approved design, which you're seeing on the left, this is what we are looking to reinstate the permit for and what will be constructed. So again, we're not proposing any design changes. The building will continue to be fully commercial with retail use at the ground floor, and we're simply looking to basically pick off from where the project left off. So this is the current condition of the building. As I noted, some of the rooftop framing work was begun in 2019, actually an extensive amount of the framing work. You can see some of that above the cornice line and the parapet here. There's also a sidewalk shed around the perimeter of the site. The facade is in a state of disrepair with visible graffiti throughout. And of course, all of that will be corrected as part of the restorative work on the project. So I just want to take you through some aerial views showing you the extent of the rooftop construction, which has already been installed on the site. So we have this aerial view, the Lafayette frontage here, Grand Street here. And then as I mentioned, this is an L-shaped building. So we do have the visible secondary elevations here. The rooftop addition is L-shaped. It follows the footprint of the building. All of the framing and the metal studs and the roof have been installed for the rooftop addition. And then there's also steel framing that's been installed for the west stair extension. So these are drone photos that the team took of the as-built conditions. And so we'll move around the site. You have a key plan here on the lower left. And this shows, again, all of the work that is already completed at the building. Any new work, once we get the permit reinstated, will just continue off of these built conditions. And I'm happy to come back to these if anyone has any questions. And then these are a couple of photos from actually inside the framing of the rooftop addition. The project engineer has confirmed via an on-site survey and measurements that the constructed framing matches the LPC approval. So again, everything will just pick up from where it left off. And then, as I mentioned, at the rear of the building where the new stair extension will be located, we have steel framing in place as well. So I'll take you through quickly the approved drawings. So again, as part of our C of A permit, there were perforated drawing sets, formal filing drawings issued and reviewed by LPC staff and perforated with their approval. So all of these drawings are forming the basis for the work. So here we have existing elevations for the east and north elevations. They show the removal of non-historic storefront infill and then the removal of a number of bulkheads at the roof. And then in the approved elevations here, we see the new storefront infill, new wood windows matching the historic at the primary elevations. The original approval added new openings onto the secondary north elevation to add more light and air to the offices inside. And then at the roof, and we have enlarged elevations in just a bit, there's a one-story addition here with a bulkhead and clear story on top. And then at the rear will be a new stair enclosure clad in brick. These are the existing elevations of the secondary west and south facades. And then in the approved, so this is that secondary west elevation. There's a windowless brick extension, which was approved to house a new stair. This was all required for egress within the building. And then at the visible secondary south elevation, 6 new window openings will be installed within the common brick wall. At the storefront, the approved scope includes new wood display windows and doors with bulkheads and transom windows, consistent with the type of infill you see throughout the historic district. The historic cast iron columns and cornice will all be retained and restored as part of the project. And then the original commission level approval also included the installation of this new ramp on Lafayette Street to provide barrier-free access to the office entrance. So moving to the roof scope, we have an existing roof plan on the left here and the approved design on the right. So as I mentioned, the addition is 1 story and it's L-shaped. There are setbacks off of both the Lafayette Street elevations as well as a significant setback off of Grand Street. So the addition really is held back from those primary facades. I do want to note that at the north facade of the addition in this west wing, as well as the south elevation, in those locations, the addition actually aligns with the historic brick walls below. So there's continuity in those portions of the walls. And then on the west here, this is where that new stair volume will be. At the roof of the addition, there's a single elevator bulkhead here facing Lafayette Street, as well as an angled clear story and mechanicals on the roof of the west leg of the addition. Here we have elevations of the rooftop addition. I'll start with our bottom drawing here. So this is the east facing elevation. This is what faces Lafayette Street. The addition will be clad with gray brick in this section with metal and glass infill. On the roof is an elevator bulkhead, and then this clear story, angled clear story that faces onto Lafayette as well. On the top here, we have the west portion of the addition. As I mentioned in this area, the addition is actually going to be a continuation of the brick wall below. So here the addition will actually be clad with whitewashed red brick to match the existing brick, and it will also have punched window openings, which are more consistent with secondary building elevations. Here's an enlarged view of the rooftop addition. So you can see it here set back from the cornice line with the secondary facade in the background. Just to go through finishes quickly with you, all of the cast iron elements, including those at the storefront, the pressed metal cornice, as well as the new windows will all be painted a blackish green color. That color was chosen based on a historic finishes analysis that was conducted at the building. For the rooftop addition, there are a few different bricks that will be utilized. So for the elevations that are facing the primary, the streets rather, those portions of the addition will be faced with this gray Peterson brick. You can see this in the upper right-hand corner. On the secondary elevations where the addition is rising up from those secondary walls, there will be a couple of different whitewashed red bricks utilized to get really close to what the existing conditions are of the walls below. We'll also quickly go through the visibility study. So this was a slide that was put together in 2016, tracking the visibility corridor up and down Lafayette Street, but visibility is really limited over the primary elevations and primarily located over the secondary elevations. So the way we've laid out these slides is that we have the public meeting, the approved materials on the left showing the original mock-up and then a rendered view, and then on the right is our existing. So this is our existing photo with the framing for the rooftop addition already erected. So we're getting slightly less visibility in these views because of course the cladding isn't on the rooftop addition, but we're very happy to note that all of the visibility is exactly as expected and as approved when this project was originally going through the public review process. So here's a view from the east. Again, minimal visibility over the Lafayette Street elevation. This is directly across Lafayette Street from the building. Very, very little visibility of the addition above. This is the view from the south. So there will be some visibility of that clear story portion, as you can see here, of the addition. And then the brick wall will actually be extended up to form the south wall of the addition. This is a view from north on Lafayette. So you will not have any visibility over the primary facades here. We'll simply see the extension of the addition over that secondary elevation. So here we have a couple of views from the original approval. Again, a street view on the left and an aerial view on the right. So the rehabilitation project was previously found appropriate by LPC. We do believe that the modifications remain appropriate to the building and to the historic district. In addition to restoring historic features throughout the building, the rooftop addition has a minimal profile. It's clad in brick, which will be compatible with the historic building materials. It's also set back from the primary design facades and will mostly be seen in conjunction with the secondary elevations. So the team looks really forward to restarting work on this building. And with that, we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Just two questions. If you could put up the about 3 or 4 slides back, it showed the old sort of the full view there.
This one?
This is with respect to the rooftop addition, this shows the difference in the application and what exists now.
Correct. Although I just want to clarify that what we're seeing now is only the framing. So once the cladding is actually installed over the framing and over the studs, the visibility will be compatible with what was approved and shown in the public hearing set. So we're not actually asking for any changes.
And the brick cladding is the same, or that's been modified?
Correct. It's the same. It's going to be a gray Peterson brick.
Okay. Are there questions?
All right, anybody, the only member of the public here is Brian. Do you have any questions, Brian?
No.
All right. All right, thank you. I think we'll go to Pete Davies, who's got his hand raised.
Yeah, thank you. It's really great to see this building getting attention again. Curious, if you could go back to slide 32, I think it is. I'm just curious, the windows that face south on the blank brick wall there, in the center, are those going to be built or is that dead?
Yes, the plan is to build this as it was approved.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. It's really good to see this.
Great, thank you.
Is there another hand raised? Oh, Laura, hi. Go on, please.
You know, I had raised my hand just to say that I just wish it hadn't had that gray brick, which I think is entirely inappropriate for Soho. But it's been approved as far as I understand. And so it's just, you know, just a comment more than anything else. I think the gray brick, if you, I don't remember it being okayed by the community board. I just think that both the shape and, you know, and the color are just, you know, so 1950s or something. It just doesn't fit. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody here from the community board who's not on the committee who wants to speak? All right, time for the committee then. I'm going to start just to make sure I'm clear on something.
Sure.
I feel a little bit confused because we're getting the sense that nothing has changed from the original application, and yet the application says review modifications to the prior presentation for the rooftop addition. So what's the discrepancy there?
Sure. There was perhaps a bit of misunderstanding when we requested placement on the agenda, but I think Chanel, we clarified that we are simply requesting a reinstatement of the certificate of appropriateness permit. We are not proposing any modifications to the approved design.
Okay, so I just wanted to confirm then that what is inaccurate.
That's right. That's come to
is the
light.
language on the agenda. Okay, perfect. Thank you. That was my only question.
And I'll modify the description to be accurate.
Okay, good. Arturo.
Yeah. I have a question on the color study, Julie.
Sure.
So where did y'all get that sample from?
Oh, for the finishes analysis?
Yeah, the existing paint analysis.
Yes. So those were done, so that was done back in 2016. So those colors were pulled, I guess we don't have the location on there, but those colors were pulled from extant historic fabric that's on the building. So that would have included the cast iron elements at the storefront, as well as the windows.
Right, at the storefront level. I asked that because when I was looking at the pictures that were shown later in the deck, they do seem to have a historical divergence between the top cornice and some of the paint used at the storefront levels. I think I was looking at some pictures.
Oh, are you speaking to some of the pre-work photos?
Yeah, so like.
Oh, sure. There's a lot of variety on the building now, but the way that the finishes analysis is done, and they actually go back to the very earliest layers. So they take that sample, and then this is the cross section. So they go back in time, and what they found was this really dark green, almost black color.
Right, but I was speaking to like slide 30. If you go to slide 30, there's even a seeming divergence in the paint used at the storefront level and the storefront cornice and the top building cornice.
In this view?
Slide 30.
30. This is their
The historical documentation. So if you go further, like 3 slides, maybe.
okay, we have an appendix. Maybe that's what you're looking at. We added a couple of slides to the deck, so perhaps the page numbers are not accurate. But the intent either way is that, I think I'll go here, is that all of the paint colors will match and all of the storefront will match.
Right. I think just looking at the more recent photos and looking at some of the historical photos, this paint color looks very black, very dark. I don't really see the green in it. And I think either the Lafayette green or the Essex greens that we've seen in other applications for this neighborhood seem a little bit more appropriate and respecting the historical character. Obviously, as you saw in that paint profile, there are a number of different colors that have been applied. But just looking at the existing condition in some of the historical photos, I think those 2 colors would be more appropriate. The other thing, so there's been no construction. There was construction started because you had a C of A, and then once the construction project was suspended, there's been no construction since that period.
There has been correct. So there has been no construction on this project since then. There were a couple of permits that were pulled to address some emergency repair work at the rear of the building for safety. But other than that, no work has progressed on this project. And just to go back to the paint color question, definitely appreciate your thoughts, but do just want to clarify for the committee that the dark as night color was the approved color. It was based on a technical finishes analysis that LPC approved, and we're not looking to deviate from that color.
Okay, thank you. Sean, did you have anything?
No, I thought it was a good point.
Yeah, there's nothing from you, Sean?
No.
Okay. Chenault, unless you have any other questions, I think.
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
What's that?
I'm fine.
Okay.
I would point out there's just always the terrible problem of what renderings and photographs look like opposite the real color.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Julie.
Great. Thank you so much.
I think those colors can do have them there.
Yeah.
Okay, we can move on.
Yep.
The application is for 277 Canal Street
No,
to
because
create an accessible entrance.
then they've changed it to assets.
Please don't talk of the room. The application is to create an accessible entrance to the NQRW Canal Street subway station and to vertically enlarge the existing three-story commercial building. This was a previously heard application, and the committee recommended approval apart from some details on the ground floor and the rooftop structures. Within the building is an important subway entrance to a station that is a confluence of the BMT lines. That's the old-fashioned term. The committee suggests, indeed encourage the applicant to incorporate accessibility to the project, and we are delighted to be reviewing this application, which does so. With respect to the other aspects of the application, the committee will only, of the subway, the committee will only be considering the appearance of the subway entrance. There's a great deal of information about inside, and that is cared for by other departments. The original application was first considered by the committee under the Soho rezoning. The addition of the subway project to the application brings eligibility for an additional bonus of increased size. Okay. When you're ready, please.
I think, Albert, are you on? Albert LeBeau should be added as a panelist.
Yeah, Albert LeBeau's and Ellen
Lehman.
should be added.
Ellen? Oh, okay.
There's an Ellen and an Aaron.
And so there's one other thing I wanted to mention about the application as we see it. There are a great many pages of examples of things not in the district. The ones that have to do with subway entrances inside buildings, though obviously not in the district, are applicable, but I would just urge you to be economical with all the pages and pages of examples.
Yes, understood, Janelle.
Well,
So
thank us. So, a little background on my family, United American Land. We've been in Soho for the past 35 years. We own a lot of properties in the district. We just developed 430 West Broadway. We'll also own the property at 53 Howard Street where the Mercery is, and on 321, 323 Canal Street, which we did a restoration where we received the Lucy Moses Award. Next slide. So we're really involved in preservation. On downtown Brooklyn, 503 Fulton Street, a 250,000 square foot building where we have as our main tenant is H&M and Old Navy. 33 Union Square, where we did a significant restoration, a lot of facade work. Happens to be Andy Warhol's factory where he got shot, actually. We did a great restoration there. And then on 55 Reed Street, cast iron building on the corner of Broadway that we did an extensive renovation as well, cast iron. And we also received the Lucy Moses Award. So next slide.
Excuse me, could you make the picture the full screen?
Is that better?
Yeah.
So this is the property on Broadway and Canal. Let's go to the next slide. Where we were received 2 years ago
We were the first one coming out of Soho rezoning where we received the approval from the commission to build this 100,000 square foot building. So now why are we here? After we got our approval, we received a call from the MTA, and MTA says, you know something, the community really wants an elevator to make this accessible. And for all the time I've been in this district and this community, and we own the other two corners of Canal Street. Every time I've gone to a community board hearing, I always hear that the community wants an elevator to make this station accessible. Actually, when we brought our new project, and we'll show the next slide. Let's go to the next slide to show the next slide. When we showed this project to the Landmarks Commission staff, Sarah Carroll, and Mark Silverman, happens to be that Mark Silverman told the story that he himself went on, got off the train station at this particular station and saw a handicapped person in a wheelchair with his friend. And the friend and the handicapped person said, where's the elevator? Well, there is no elevator. What do you mean there's no elevator? Well, there's no elevator. So his friend had to take the handicapped person, hoof him up his back for 2 stories, while Mark took up the wheelchair up and handing it over to the handicapped person. And when you think about it, and I told this to my kids, how we take things for granted, where, we go, fortunately, we take the stairs. This is really, really needed in the community. And we're really happy to be part of this process, to put pencils down for 2 years and then come up with a new design that will permit us to have a new accessible train station for the community. So this is the new design that just came up. And we're happy to say that, again, we're part of the Soho rezoning. And what's exciting about this is that we're bringing in affordable housing as well as this new development in conjunction with making the subway station accessible. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Erin Woolley to talk about the process.
Thanks, Albert. Great. So you all have been acquainted with this building. It's the 3-story building on the northeast corner of Broadway and Canal, and it's located in the Historic District Extension, which was expanding the historic district at the periphery in 2010 from the original district designated in 1973. And so the original building was constructed in 1927. It was a mixed-use building with retail on the ground floor, including a subway entry, commercial on the upper floors, and a very large theater known as the Major was also located here. Next slide. And so in the 2023 approval, that was for a 9-story plus penthouse addition to the existing 3-story structure. And the approach was simple: to take the existing building, restore it, and then expand it in a very straightforward way by incorporating the DNA of the existing building into the addition. It was extremely well received both by you and the Landmarks Commission, and the key findings for that approval all remain true today for the new proposal. And so that was that the existing building is really outside of the key period of significance for the historic district, which is really typified by the mid-19th and early 20th century commercial buildings, and that commercial building style isn't typified by a specific height, and that the expansion could further interpret the commercial building type for the district, and that there were historic precedents within the historic district for vertical extensions that were comparable to this, and that the building is sited on the boundary of the district prominent quarter site where tall buildings are historically located, and that the height was related to the surrounding streetscape and urban context. And as Chenault explained in the CB2 resolution in 2023, it was fully supported, but requested the addition of the subway accessibility project, and that of course is what we're back to share with you today. And so Christopher's going to walk you through the specifics. Christopher Courtney from Morris Ajmi Architects. They are continue to be the architects for the project, and he's going to walk you through the specific transit updates, and then we'll take you through the history. We'll make it as brief as possible, and the specifics of the design. But I think most importantly, when we started to explore this proposition of adding the area for the transit bonus, we realized you couldn't just take the previous approval and expand it. It didn't work from an architectural perspective, and it really didn't provide value in the streetscape, in the very important sort of Soho, the reading of the Soho context, and also Tribeca east to the south. So we really started from scratch, thinking about how to sort of weave these two pieces together in a way that related more to how this building is now oriented and how it addresses the street in terms of its height and bulk and the new subway entry. And with that, I'll pass it to Christopher to walk you through.
Thanks. Again, Christopher Courtney with Morris Ajmi Architects. So here we have the proposed project. It's an enlargement of the existing building. It provides approximately 159 housing units with ground floor retail and much needed transit improvements, as we know. The project will be part of a merged zoning lot and also make use of development rights. The project does deliver on two major city planning initiatives from 2021, the Soho-NoHo rezoning plan, which developed to create new housing opportunities in the neighborhood. And the other is the zoning for accessibility, which was passed in the same year, which created several zoning mechanisms to make use of the transit system more accessible. So the specific zoning mechanisms being made use of for this project are a floor area increase of 1.94 FAR, and also a modification of the maximum base height and the building height for the building. So the project brings together these goals. It delivers much needed housing, including 31 mandatory inclusionary housing units. And it, of course, enhances the capacity of the subway station it sits in and allows it to become more accessible. So I'll run through these next few slides on the subway specifically. The existing entrance today has a stair that already is in the building. So there's an existing easement between the building and the MTA. The proposed new subway entrance stair will be moved one bay to the north. So from the center to the north. And on this plan, we've got Broadway at the top, Canal on the left. And so the existing stairs are in the center bay. They get moved to the northern bay. By doing that and moving the stairs over it allows the developer to open up space for a new elevator waiting area and elevator shaft. And this allows the MTA to install an elevator here and provide the accessibility specifically to the RW northbound platform running below. Here we have an existing and proposed sort of understanding of the station itself. Broadway runs this way, Canal runs this way. On the left, we have the existing, but essentially a stair comes in off of the street, makes it its way down to a fare control mezzanine. And from that fare control mezzanine, there's a few more stairs that go down to the platform. So the proposed condition, again, moves the stairs from the center to the northern bay, creates a space for a new elevator. And then there's a newly excavated space that will be an additional fare control mezzanine. From that mezzanine, we have two portals opening directly onto the platform. And so that in essence bypasses those additional stairs that are over by the other fare control. Between the two fare control mezzanines will be a ramp that connects, so further adding accessibility to the station. And then as it exists today already, there's a ramp that connects to the rest of the complex. So there's the N, the Q, the 6, and the J lines. So this is a piece of the puzzle that certainly helps with the MTA's project and program here. There is a approved capital program for the MTA, which they're working on. And so this would be a piece of that overall station complex, an accessibility update. So here we've got left and right existing and proposed, the new portals being opened directly onto the platform through the fare control mezzanine. And then directly behind those portals is the elevator up to the street. And then similarly, the existing stairs today will be taken out and moved further to the north. Here's the ramp that connects the two fare control platforms, elevator in the background, portals to the platform in the background as well.
Great. So the history and context here is sort of compressed, touching on each of the points of appropriateness, which we'll need to establish for the commission again, since they are reviewing this from scratch development. But just sort of the overview of the historical development of the site, we have at least 4 generations of change of commercial development on the site. And so the existing building, of course, is on the bottom right. That's constructed in 1927, but we have the earlier buildings that were developed and supplanted by the next generation. And then in 1913, the site is cleared because of construction for the subway. And it gets a sort of collection of parking and small taxpayers developed on it at that time, and a subway entry. And then it finally in 1927, the building that exists today was constructed, and the subway entry was integrated into the building itself. So there's been this close connection to transit improvements from the outset for this site and for the existing building. Next slide. So the building, there is a broad restorative program and new infill for windows and storefronts that we'll briefly look at, but just a general hint at the existing conditions. Building is primarily terracotta trim with red brick cladding. There's been multiple generations of repointing, and it's in need of some restorative attention. But these 3 views give you the key elements that informed the design approach, the sort of inspiration for the design. That is the framed corner where the pilasters meet the corner of the building, and the corner is kind of peeled back from that. All of the piers are marked by a projecting pilaster that has a terracotta sill and capital. And then the easternmost bay, which was the entry for the theater, it's organized as a pavilion, and that has perhaps a more ornamental treatment of the terracotta trim and a tympanum at the top, and that becomes this sort of palette of inspiration for the new design. Next slide. Sure. So here's that overall proposed restoration scope of work. This is exactly the same as what you saw in 2023. So full brick masonry and terracotta restoration. Anything that's missing in terms of terracotta is going to be replicated and replaced with new terracotta. We have columns, piers at the base that have been cut back and clad over, so new terracotta piers, and that will reassert the historic reading of the building, give it organization and presence in the streetscape. And in addition to that, the existing marquee, which is the structure from the original marquee at the building for the theater will be reclad and reused for the residential entry at the east end. And then all of the windows at the second and third floors will be replicating the historic configuration. So that tripartite window with the transoms, but they'll be replicated in new high-performing aluminum windows. And then at the top of the building, currently there is just a simple terracotta coping at the top of the building. And so the proposal includes the addition of a more pronounced cornice, terracotta cornice, that would act as a transition between the historic building and the new addition above. And again, that's all consistent with what we brought forward in 2023. Next slide. As part of that approval and that proposal, there was a storefront master plan and signage master plan that was approved, and that included new contemporary infill within each of the restored bays of the ground floor, and that gives flexibility for either small configurations for retail spaces or larger spaces between a combination of display windows and entries. And then the storefront master and the signage master plan allowed for a collection of signs that are informed by the sort of Canal Street context. And it included 3 different signage types: internally illuminated sign band signage, projecting bracket signs, and then painted or applied signage on the glazing. Next slide. And so this is just an overview of the varying signage types and possible demising for the retail spaces on the interior. We can go back to this if there are any questions. Next slide. And of course, the approval was really of the signage master plan was really rooted on the history of energetic and vibrant signage and retail presence along Canal Street. And so here you just see the historic context along Canal Street, signage at every level of the buildings, projecting signage, awnings, all sorts of signage types and identity for the retail presence in the buildings, not just at the ground floor. Next slide. And of course, this is the building in the aughts, the early 2000s, and shows the internally illuminated, the presence along Canal Street, where we have it's a major thoroughfare, obviously, very vibrant. There was internally illuminated signage at all 3 floors of the building. And so the proposal really rationalizes all of that, collects it at the ground floor in a very organized, well-designed way in order to engage in the dialogue of Canal Street, but without overwhelming the building as it had been historically in the Soho context. Next slide. So the building itself was the last building constructed in the district that was given a style designation. There are 1 or 2 no-style buildings that postdate it, but the building is when Soho essentially has 3 major periods of development. And following the last period in the sort of early 20th century, there's a period of stasis. There's nothing being built. But the thing that is happening is transportation improvements and infrastructure. And so here you can see the significance of the building is really described in the designation report as relating to the result of transportation improvements and new forms of mass entertainment in the early decades of the 20th century. And so that point of significance is also applied to 270 Lafayette Street, which is at the corner of Prince and Lafayette, but that is a 15-story commercial building. So it's this late period of development, of which these are the the two buildings essentially, but they really show the variety of scale and character of the late commercial buildings in the historic district and provide part of the appropriateness or rationale for why a tall building could be considered on the site of 277 Canal. Next slide. And then just to touch on the vertical extension of buildings, this of course happened all over the city. We see that at the GM building, which had the two-story base and then the tower added to it. That when the tower was added, that was actually in conjunction with the addition of the I&D line up 8th Avenue. So there is a correlation between some of these extensions and the development of the subway lines, both north and south. And so we have two examples of buildings that were expanded vertically within the historic district, 525 Broadway, which was a 7-story addition on a 1-story building, and then 565 Broadway, which was actually a late 19th century extension to the building at the corner of Prince and Broadway, and all executed in Tuckahoe marble. But here, just establishing a pattern for how one expands buildings, employing the vocabulary of the base, and then how it can be expressed above in a vertical extension. Next slide. Again, very long history on the site, but it has always been connected in some way to infrastructure and transportation changes. And so here's the site. In the early 19th century, of course, overlooking the canal, major civic improvement, or not, along Canal Street. And next slide. And of course, the introduction of the subway. But the subway is connection is happening within this building, below this building, as part of the subway easement, but it's also part of a greater transportation that efforts that really turned Canal Street into a major interborough interstate connection, bringing traffic across the Manhattan Bridge, the subway across Manhattan Bridge, and then the Holland Tunnel connections. So it really changed everything about the site and Canal Street during these major changes to transportation during the early 20th century. Next slide. Building was constructed, designed and constructed by David Oltarsh. And Oltarsh didn't have very many buildings that he designed on his own. He collaborated with architects, including H. Craig Severance on 40 Wall Street. He did a couple of theaters and some market buildings, one of which you're quite familiar with, 837 Washington Street, which the commission approved a substantial new addition. This has become sort of an icon for inventive landmarks approved additions. This was designed by Morris Ajmi as well. And so there is this collaboration through time that seems to be happening, and it's very interesting, between 837 Washington and 277 Canal. Oltarsh was a visionary of sorts. As part of his one of his plans, which you see the headline on the top left, was to take underutilized theaters and convert them into pools. So there's this early adaptive reuse that's happening in through his eyes, I think, in the 20s and 30s during the Depression, when no one was going to the theaters. Next slide. And then finally, I think, Chanel, this is what you're getting at. I'm not going to go into detail about each of these, but really each of these buildings has integrated subway entries. They are iconic, large-scale buildings that are within lower scale context. And in some way, they represent an identity or a placemaking for those access points. So the identity of the building associated with the access to the public transit or the public improvement that comes with new construction and significant new development within these contexts, both historically and currently. And then next slide. With that, I think Christopher is going to take you through, but the concept here was to develop something that was perhaps more meaningful and an improvement on what we last had approved for the site. And I think MA has really worked very hard at distilling what the details of the existing building are and what that can mean for the new development, and weaving these two things together in a way that is both exciting and tells the story of what's happening currently, the need for housing, addressing all of these civic needs, the increased accessibility and transit improvements, and also having really great architecture as part of the context. So with that, I'll leave it to Christopher to walk you through.
Great, thanks, Erin. So as far as design, the concept, right, is the proposed development is designed to reference the Broadway context of the Soho cast iron historic district. This features the late 19th and early 20th century taller masonry buildings. These buildings are street wall in their massing and contain robust bases and crowns, and are constructed of stone, brick, and terracotta. The composition, materiality, massing, and fenestration of the vertical extension are all designed to reference and interpret the adjacent historic district context in a carefully designed contemporary expression. It was also really important that we sort of harmonize the addition with the existing building, and use portions of the DNA, whether it be articulation and clearly with materiality, to create that harmony of the two parts together. As far as materiality, on the restored base, or on the base of the building itself, or the existing building, is brick pilasters and terracotta pilasters and cornices, and then granite at the base of the sidewalk. And so we're using those same materials largely in the new addition, the terracotta and brick largely. On the lot line, there is an additional brick material that's brought in. At the bulkhead and the setback penthouse is a standing seam aluminum material, and then throughout, for all of the fenestration, is a bronze toned high performance aluminum material. So again, a little bit about the concept of using the DNA. As I mentioned, the existing building has this tympanum above where the theater entrance would have been. And so we're drawing on that, the language of that arch. Arches exist in the district in these similar types of buildings as well. And so we're sort of playing off of that with a folded arch expression that gives a little bit of movement and complexity and tension, creates a little bit of shadow line at the top, and is certainly done in a modern fashion. So a bit of a zoom in on the crown, and here you can see, the folded arches. You can see the shadow line that's created there, the depth that's created there, and then also just in general the depth of the facade from the piers through the multiple fenestration elements down to the windows. There's quite a bit of a depth in the facade in general. Some diagrams on the left side, the diagram to really sort of express that late 19th, early 20th century masonry building typology of a very strong base, middle, and crown. In this case, we're using the existing building as the base. And on the right side, a diagram to talk about material transformation. So at the base of the building, there is a little bit of terracotta at the ground floor, and then largely the red brick at the second and third floors. So we wanted to use both of those materials. We started with a sort of heavy brick base that sort of grounds the building at the bottom of the building, and then it sort of transforms and becomes lighter and brighter at the top of the building with this terracotta that would essentially match the base of the building. Here you can see that transformation happening in the center of the building, right? So there's a switching from the heavier red brick at the base to the terracotta at the top, and portions of the building, it's a static read of 4 whites of brick at the base, for instance, 1 white of brick at the top of the building, and then sort of in between is that transformation where it angles up from brick to terracotta. In all cases, the piers have that extended pilaster motif that exists at the base of the building as well. And looking at the corner condition, again, just more of an example of taking the DNA of the building. So on the left image are those two piers coming together with a sort of recessed brick condition. In this case, that recess, you're right, and the pilasters are sort of set out from the face as well. So we're recreating the set out of the brick for the pilasters. We're recreating in a new way the recess that happens between those two materials with the terracotta here, and you can kind of see how that moves up on the right from the base to the top of the building. Just a couple of details to break some of that down to the 4 widths of brick, the transition zone here, the single width of brick here. At the top of the building, the 3-story crown, that brick actually transitions fully to just terracotta, which you can kind of see here as well. So the lot line has a bit of a presence. So there was a thought to sort of break down that scale a bit with some sort of subtle condition and motif. So again, we're pulling from the DNA of the existing building, the arched tympanum, and then really just kind of taking those new arches that we've created at the crown of the building and sort of wrapping them around. The two-toned brick is also sort of a reference and expression of the materiality that's happening on the piers, moving up the building and having that sort of material transformation that happens there as well. Here you can see the building set within the context. On the left, we're Broadway looking south. There's a building in the foreground that also shows a sort of a bit of a presence of a lot line. In that case, obviously all similarly constructed in a common brick. Here on the left, we're again also looking down Broadway looking south. In the distance, we can see 401 Broadway, which has a similar lot line presence and makes use of a two-toned colored brick. And so this is sort of echoing that and pulling that as a contextual clue as well. On the right side, we're on Broadway looking north, just again, seeing the building within the context. Context throughout the district, just to see the building in other places. So in this case, we're specifically looking south on Crosby Street to see the relationship of the building to its new to its existing neighbors. And we'll land on this slide here. Really just a great pedestrian understanding of the very vibrant and busy corner from a pedestrian and car and subway point of view. Here you see the restored building with the new subway entrance, some of the new signage, and the new addition, which we hope by using the same materiality and using all of the DNA from the base of the building really sort of harmonizes itself in. It feels like it was always kind of meant to be part of this building. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Shall we go straight to the public now?
Please, yes.
All right. You are here. We've got somebody in the room, a member of the public in the room who'd like to speak. Please come and sit here. Tell us your name and talk to us.
My name is Marie Dormus, former zoning chair of Community Board 2 for many years. I live at 307 Canal Street.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't mention 2 minutes, please, for each member of the public. Thank you.
I live at 307 Canal Street in a white marble 5-story building. This proposal, it's monstrous, and I'm sorry to rain on your parade, but it doesn't fit in this neighborhood. The design makes the size of it so much worse. And to have improvements on the subway and to allow this kind of height, it's a block, it's a wall, it's going to put Soho in shadow. It's really, it's way too tall, and the design just adds to that problem. It's a shame that most people in Soho are away right now, And I urge the committee to vote against this. It's really gone wild after the former approved proposal. It's way out of control. It's way too tall. There's no justification. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's go to our members of the public who
Could
are.
we take a moment and ask the applicant to explain briefly the bonus, both with respect to the Soho rezoning and with the subway work?
Sure. So
I think that would help a lot of the questions.
Sure. So the zoning district was rezoned with the Soho-NoHo rezoning, and the FAR applicable to the site is 9.7. The zoning for accessibility text, which was also passed in 2021, allows for a 20% bonus on the maximum FAR with the transit improvements approved by MTA. So 20% of 9.7 is 11.64.
Thank you.
Just so I understand that correctly, who is the it's the MTA that determines whether the transportation improvements meet the standard of the zoning amendment?
That's right.
Okay.
The City Planning Commission will approve the zoning authorization, which we'll come back to you to the Land Use Committee for that referral. But the MTA in the first instance determines that the transit improvements meet their standards as a major transit improvement, and then City Planning approves the zoning authorization based on MTA's determination.
Okay, and they have determined that in this case.
The MTA has, yes.
Okay, great, thanks. That's a big missing piece for me. Okay, thank you.
And just to be clear, this has been nearly 2 years of close collaboration with MTA. So it's not like we're working in a vacuum. There's been ongoing, very regular engagement with MTA in order to make this work. And Christopher, I'm not sure if you mentioned this, but there's the improvements that are happening here, but it's also tied to it allows for the work of the master plan, the capital program of MTA. It sort of builds in the connections for them that they're going to be making in addition to the improvements that we are making. So it's all sort of a collaborative endeavor that's been very detailed and resulted in a lot of exchange.
Thank you. Let's go to the public online now. I know Pete. Yeah. Pete, why don't you start?
Okay, well, thank you very much. First of all, I think we should clarify that what rules here is not the zoning, but the landmarks. So even though the zoning envelope may allow for a very large structure, that doesn't mean that the landmark determination has to fill in that entire box. So let's keep that in mind. As I was looking at the new proposal, it kept not working for me. And I was trying to figure out why that was. And it seems that one of the key problems is that they are mashing together various eras and periods into the new design. There's a little bit of the Renaissance, whatever you call it. There's some Art Deco. There's some very odd squished arches that don't appear, as far as I know. I've lived in Soho for nearly 50 years. Those squished arches just don't exist, but they do exist across the street at 416 Broadway. If you look at some of their imagery, you'll see those exact flattened arches they've moved them across the street, but that's not Soho. Also, the rhythm of that is just overwhelming and way off. The material, the type of terracotta they've chosen has really no detailing. It's very flat. It almost looks more like what you put around a swimming pool, the coping, rather than it's like a surface material rather than a decorative building material. Unlike almost all the other terracotta in Soho, which is very decorative and alive, this is somewhat flat. I also want to point out that we need clarification. It was mentioned the transcript says 159 units with 31.
30 seconds, please.
Excuse me?
30 seconds, please.
Okay. We need a clarification about the number of units, because essentially that's what this is. This is a discussion ultimately that will be about affordable housing. That is the whole justification for this plan. And I just do want to point out that when CB2 suggested a discussion about the subway entrance, yes, I'm almost done, that when we suggested 3 years ago a discussion about the subway entrance, that was not a blanket approval of whatever was offered. So I really urge the committee to use this opportunity to get what is best for the community, not only in terms of the plan, but in terms of the integrity of Soho, the integrity of the historic district, and the committee's goal is landmark preservation. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pete. Mark, who was next? Fareed, please.
Good evening, CB2. My name is Fareed Sofiev, and I'm speaking on behalf of Civic Reset NYC, a student-led zoning and affordable housing advocacy organization that I founded last year. Through our work, I hear from students, young people, renters, and future New Yorkers who care deeply about the city, but often cannot attend hearings like this. For me, this project is personal because it represents the kind of city we should be building, one that preserves historic character while making room for more people, more affordability, and better public infrastructure. This is an important project, and I think this proposal gets the fundamentals right. It replaces an underwhelming existing building with a project that brings new housing, including approximately 31 or 36, I'm not sure on the exact number, affordable homes where there are none today, active ground floor retail, and a much better relationship to the historic streetscape. What makes this project especially compelling is that it's not just a private building project. It also includes major public transit improvements at the Canal Street station, including an expanded station entrance, a new elevator, an accessible route, new fare control area, and improved circulation. These improvements will benefit everyone who uses the station, including current residents, seniors, people with disabilities, parents with strollers, workers, and visitors. From a landmark perspective, I appreciate that the design is not trying to be a glass object dropped into Canal Street. It uses brick, terracotta, granite masonry, arched window rhythms, and a base middle crown composition that responds to the historic commercial architecture around it and restores the intended character of the neighborhood. I understand the concerns about height, bulk, and change in a historic district. That's the real trade-off here. But I believe this is a worthwhile trade-off because the project offers significant public returns, more affordable housing, active retail, and better street-level economics, a more contextual and carefully articulated building, and major accessibility improvements at the Canal Street subway station. In a city facing a housing shortage and affordability crisis in its transit system, I think these public benefits justify supporting the certificate of appropriateness. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you tell us again the name of the organization that you represent?
Yep, Civic Reset NYC.
Civic Reset NYC. And do you live in the district?
I do not.
Okay, great. That's okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Arturo had a question for Fareed too, I think.
Yeah, hey Fareed, thank you for the comments. What, in general, what is like the population of the group that you represent? Who makes it up?
Yeah, the group that I represent, our main team is about 10 members working full-time on the organization. A lot of us are students. It's a student-led organization. And then we also have a lot of volunteers that come part-time and aren't with us, but work on projects like advocating for policy, doing literacy projects in affordable housing buildings, making informational videos, browselets, and helping people trying to find affordable housing.
All right, thanks, Fareed. Appreciate it.
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Do we have anybody else online from the public who wants to speak? Laura Tenenbaum, please go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
Pete said a lot of what I was thinking to say, and I also sent you a written testimony, so I don't want to.
Right.
So, but I think Peter said a word that really resonated with me, which was integrity. The integrity of Soho as a landmark district. This building stands at one of the entries to Soho. It basically should be saying, welcome to Soho. More and more, we're seeing every entry to Soho, every new building put up, basically taking away from that. I love the idea that there's going to be affordable housing. I'm concerned about the fact that the numbers don't seem to add up. 31 doesn't seem to be 25%, which is the minimum. I would love to see the 30 or more, because the fact of the matter is that we're going to have, if they give us 31 affordable units, they're giving 108 or 100 market rate or above units, which means our neighborhood is going to be further gentrified. And that's a consideration too. But in terms of the building itself, it is a conglomeration of a lot of different ideas that don't work. It's like someone took an elephant, it's the blind people with an elephant kind of concept. It's just not working for me, and it's just too big. They gave a lot of examples of tall buildings, and all those tall buildings they were giving examples of were about 14 stories high, unless they weren't in the district. It's just too much. I love the idea of an accessible subway. I know my family uses looks for accessibility a lot, but I think we should be able to have both. I think we need to keep the integrity of Soho as a historical district forefront, at least from this committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else? Okay, there are no more hands. Is there anybody from Village Preservation here? No. And how about Community Board 2? All right, we'll move to the committee. We'll move to the committee then. I have a question just for. He has raised his hand? Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, there are other raised hands from the public. Ronnie Wolf. Go ahead, Ronnie.
Hi, how are you? I am a neighbor living on Grand Street in a 9-story building. And the way I'm looking at this building, it looks like an office building. It doesn't even look residential. So if we're saying that this is a residential with vibrant, commercial space below, I'm having a problem. This looks like, 1970s office buildings. Nothing very historic for me, except the lower level. And then they have these signs which are not permitted. The signage is not even permitted in Soho. So my comment is that I hope that the committee thinks about the landmarks of and what we want the image of Soho to continue to be, because once we open the floodgates, that's it. I think we need to just keep consistent with our historic look. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else? Do you see any hands? Okay, we'll go to the committee now then. I do have a question regarding somebody raised it, Pete, I guess, raised it, but I'm unclear on what the answer is. Because we were told during the presentation that there were 159 apartments, but the application itself says 143. Which is it?
There was a typo on the first draft of the presentation we sent you. We can send you an updated version to upload to the website. The right number is 159.
Oh, okay. So
Could
then
you
that's
adjust your microphone? We're having trouble hearing you online.
Oh,
from
I
the applicant.
apologize.
So Chanel, the correct number of apartments is 159, not 143, as it says in the application.
I have a universal question about this in the square feet, so maybe we can get the whole thing and then go forward. The total number of apartments is 159. Is that correct?
That's right. That's right.
Correct.
And of those, how many are market rate?
31 are for MIH option 1, and
It would be 128.
128 are market.
Okay. Now, can you give the same in square feet?
I don't think we have that offhand. What I would say is that 25% of the area before the transit improvement is going to be MIH. That's actually what the code reads. It often is easier to give a number of units with that based on the current design of the unit layouts. Those are the numbers that we're carrying.
Is that cumulative or is that added from is 25% the total percentage of affordable square footage?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to jump in here to ask for a clarification on what that 25% is of, because Christopher, you just mentioned 25%. It's 25% of the area before the transit improvement, so that the transit improvement then really counts to diminish the amount of affordable housing, correct?
Before the transit bonus, there's 123 units, 25% of which are affordable, so 31 units. And then the transit bonus accounts for 36 additional units. And those are not subject to MIH.
Additional?
And that was
now I'm totally confused. Would you repeat that, please?
So there, of the 159 units, 36 of them are attributable to the transit bonus. And the zoning for accessibility text is clear that the transit bonus floor area is not subject to MIH. That was a policy decision made to maximize the amount of transit improvements associated with the transit bonus. So that's 36 units out of the 159. The remainder, the 123, is subject to MIH. And so 25% of the 123 is 31 affordable units.
So it's 36 plus 31 ultimately MIH?
No, there's 31 MIH units.
How many affordable units are in the plan?
31.
Okay. And there are 159 total units?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That takes care of all the bonuses and the trade-offs and whatnot?
Yes.
Exactly.
Can you repeat this?
Sorry, Susan.
No, go on, Chanel. Sorry,
No, that's all.
All right,
So it's
Sean, why don't
31,
you ask what your
just-
question is?
So it's 30, so the total number of affordable housing, which we're not even supposed to be talking about in a landmarks committee meeting. But 31.
No, I'm sorry, we do. The commission have been very interested in this.
I don't care what the commission says, the law doesn't say it, does it?
We're not discussing that. Just if you have a question, move on.
Yeah, I mean, you interrupted me. So, so I forgot my question. Thank you, Chanel.
There's 31 affordable units. I think that's where you
Yeah,
were.
yeah, out of 158, okay.
Out of
150.
159, yes.
That's right.
And that represents 128 luxury units. So let's not call them market units. They're luxury units.
Okay, and just,
Okay, this is settled now. We have the numbers. Let's move on, please.
I actually do have one more question. I just really want to make sure I understand this clearly because it's, you know, the number of affordable apartments obviously is of utmost concern. Whether or not it is a landmarks issue is a separate question. But I think, you know, we're not really conversant in how this transportation bonus works, and I want to really make sure we understand it correctly. So the 31 units then is not actually 25% of the entire number of units. It's like 19-ish or a little under 20 or something. And the reason for that is because the volume of the transit is factored in there. Is that correct?
The floor area bonus associated with the bonus floor area for doing the transit improvements is not subject to MIH. Only the base floor area is subject to MIH, which is, so there are 36 units attributable to that transit bonus. And those are not, that's not subject to the 25% MIH requirement. So when you take out the 36 from 159, there's 123 units after the transit bonus, and that 123 units are subject to the MIH requirement of 25%. We can send a table if that's easier to summarize everything.
It would be good to have just anyway, you know, thank you. All right, anybody else in the committee? Arturo, I'm sure you have a
I
question.
have a few questions.
Yeah.
Move this a little bit over here.
Yeah, let's move.
I just kind of want to go back to some comments you made about retaining the original character of the foundational base of the building. Because I was looking at your presentation when you came to this committee in June of 2023. And I think you had a lot of great examples of how you tried to keep that foundational base connected. And you reference a lot of other examples as well. So I'm kind of curious, with the transit bonus, you didn't have to change the design, and yet you decided to. So could you just talk a little bit about that? How the new design retains the original base foundation character?
Do you want to take that, Christopher, or do you want me to? Are you frozen, Christopher?
Erin, you should take that one.
I'll take that. Okay. So it's the concept when we started to look at just adding the additional area, increasing the number of floors, the pattern, the scale of that articulation wasn't working. And so we started to look at what happens, because there was a clear delineation between the old and the new in the previous proposal. We were taking the brick, it was going to be a limited palette of brick with a red mortar, so it was going to be differentiated from the base. And so first we thought, how do you more fully integrate the addition with the base building? And so we are now proposing to match the brick, match the mortar, and that weaving those two pieces together, taking the sort of essential character of the base. It's a very simple building, the existing building, and it doesn't have the ornate terracotta that you see in the earlier period buildings. And I know Pete was talking about that a lot. So this is a contemporary addition that is kind of threading through the materiality and the concepts or the basis of the existing building. So taking those simple profiles and kind of extruding them up. So taking the brick, extending it up, and then transitioning. That's that sort of splayed pier line, transitioning it up so that it converts to terracotta and then becomes lighter and more open as it reaches up to the upper stories, and having a light crown, which is very typical in the district for the building itself. And so it's essentially, instead of being an extrusion of the base building, which is sort of the concept behind the original approach, this one transitions and creates a gradient in order to bridge the language between the base building and the addition. And I think it is not, in my opinion, a mishmash of stylistic impulses. It is very much of this moment. It addresses the needs and the specific character of the project itself. And it's not trying to be a historic building. It is a well-crafted, well-detailed addition that interprets a marginal building on the boundary of the district. This would not be something you could do in the center of the district on a cast iron building. This is not opening the floodgates for other projects to other buildings to do this. The commission and your committee determined that there's an opportunity here to do something more, to provide housing. A significant proportion of it is affordable, and now accommodating these transit improvements. And so it is all it is a combination of all of those impulses that's creating this building. It is not a single element that's being foist upon the community. We're dealing with a way of accommodating housing to a greater degree on the site and having other civic improvements. And it is very much a kind of symbol of that effort.
Thank you, Erin. I do want to say, personally, as a committee member, I don't mind the size. I do applaud building more housing. I wish it was obviously more affordable to folks and there was more affordable housing as a part of this project. But I think if you're going to build taller, you have to do it in a way that's a little bit more respectable or more respectful of the historic nature of the district. And just looking at the examples that you provided, where you build atop of foundational bases, it's very different between those projects and this one. And there's something to be said about, the contemporary nature and maybe some artistic license. But I think that's where I think people start to get a little bit uncomfortable. Even just talking about the bricks, I don't really see it as a transition. It kind of feels like an erasure of the bricks, and then trying to maintain those very thin vertical pieces of brick on the top floors also seems like that's going to be, a bit of a pain. But I'd like to transition to the top 3 floor arches. Again, I think there is some precedent in that area in Soho for those arches, but those feel too big. All the other ones that you referenced, even in your references, 525 Broadway, I think another example is 226 230 Canal, across the street on 276 Canal. Those are all 2 floors. Those are all 2-story arches. So these also feel very large. They feel unproportional with the building and with the neighborhood. So those are just some elements where, I think if you're going to go high and you're going to go big, and again, thank you for the affordable housing, thank you for the transit access, it would be great to see a little bit more kind of respect for the historical district.
Thanks, Arturo. I have another question in terms of the 23 application and this one. The signage with the retail signage in the 23 application was considerably more discreet than what's rendered in the current application, where, there's kind of a anything goes quality about what's currently rendered, and there was a much more, discrete amount of signage and the discretion of that signage seems a lot more consistent with what we see in Soho than what's currently rendered. What's the difference?
So you're absolutely right. I had forgotten about this, but when we went to the commission did not like the simple signage. They wanted, the commission wanted something that was more expressive of the character of Canal Street. And so when we came back, it was a challenge because it's about sort of codifying irregularity. And how do you capture the character of what's happening along Canal Street? But that was in direct response to our hearing with the commissioners.
That's interesting. Thanks. I mean, where do you want to bring in Canal Street? What's Soho? What's new?
Right.
What's old? It's a complicated equation. All right.
It is. And, we do have the broad facade is along Canal. And there was a lot of discussion at that time about the multi-story or the layering of signage that we see along Canal Street, and how do you not allow it to overwhelm the building, but still have some sort of inherent character that might relate to the ad hoc nature that you see historically and even in the existing condition. And so this was our best effort at trying to, and this is of course just a sampling of what's possible there, but it provided outside boundaries for the sign band signage, which is the illuminated signage, and then allowed for more regular bracket signs and typical decal and glazing signage.
All right, thank you. Thanks. Are there any more questions or comments from anybody? Sean, do you have anything?
We're not an executive yet, are we?
No.
No.
Okay.
I have a couple.
Go ahead, Chanel.
And in this slide, about the subway entrance, which just got blacked out. Or is there a close-up of the subway entrance? Yep. It seems to be ill-identified.
The subway entrance itself.
Yeah, how does one know?
It's a good question. I think what we're following is the existing condition of signage that exists today for the subway.
And I couldn't see that sign.
Yeah,
okay.
Yep. So
Okay.
it's same idea, essentially.
I would just sort of say again about the top, particularly the repetition of the arches, and that the top 2-floor section somehow isn't important enough to be the top. It's separated, to be sure, but it's almost as though for some reason it was decided that that was high enough, that the first cornice was put in, and then the second one was put on top of it. And in the way that I think one of the examples showed, I can't remember which one, that it was really something heavy and more different and more important at the top. Could you go to the lot line window rendering?
Chenault, are you talking about differentiation between the sort of the top of the shaft of the building versus the top cornice and the arches
I'm
at
talking
the
about what the top two floors.
top two floors? Okay.
That
Okay.
seems to be a cap that somehow is not capping.
Got it. Okay. Understood.
Now, for all the talk of, is there a better way to see it? Like there, that's about that. For all the talk about this building being in Soho, it's turning its back on Soho because it's a building on Canal Street that turns the corner. This just seems to be a loom, particularly because it's so tall. It's come up more than once with the Soho rezoning that a tall building that is in the context reads as a skyscraper is a building we think of as having four equal facades, if you will. And this doesn't seem respectful of Soho somehow. Perhaps a more important top would do it, or I won't redesign it, but that's just the way it strikes. And I would appreciate if you could send us tomorrow just a clear chart
Breakdown
of
of
the what we talked about for the square footage and the number of apartments of each category, and explaining, if I understood correctly, the affordable housing is based on the Soho bonus, and the additional,
That's exactly right.
however much there
Right.
is from the transportation, does not have any component built into it of affordable housing. So it's essentially the same amount if there weren't the transportation bonus. Is that a rough way of saying it?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
The affordability requirement is the base FAR based on the Soho zoning.
Oh,
And
that's
then,
very helpful.
yeah.
I'm gonna
And
take
so,
a-
and well,
hold it just a
that's
second. I'm
actually,
gonna take a
that's
screenshot.
actually a diagram showing the height and setback modification. So that's not quite accurate about the floor area, but that's exactly right. So the zoning for accessibility created an incentive for developers to include transit improvements as part of their project. The policy decision was that the best incentive for developers to include expensive transit improvements is to offer a bonus and make that bonus exempt from the MIH requirements. That was the policy decision because that particular zoning was focused on maximizing the incentives for transit improvements and maximizing those accessibility improvements that are so needed by
So
the
it hasn't lowered
So
anything. It's just decreased the percentage of the total building.
what was that?
Yeah, I think we understand.
Yeah, so the bonus, and we will come back here, we'll come back to the land use committee with the zoning actions, and we'll go through in much more detail the transit improvements and the scope of the transit bonus. And we can continue to discuss that then. But yes, the transit improvement bonus is about 34,000 square feet, and that is not subject to MIH.
Okay.
And that's what's accounting for the kind of discrepancy you're all noticing.
Okay, thank you. Susan,
Sean had another question.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there's a 34,000 square foot increase because of the transit bonus on top of the existing 100,000 square feet, giving you just correct my math. That's a 33% increase because of the traffic bonus, or 20%? How much more percentage, how many more square feet are you getting because of the transit bonus, additional square feet?
Christopher, do you have that table in the appendix that we can go to? So in order to make the bonus something that substantiated the improvements and the scope of the improvements. The zoning lot was expanded. Christopher mentioned that. So the bonus is 34,000 square feet. The total square footage of the building is 145,000 square feet.
Oh.
And that includes some development rights associated with the adjacent lot. That 34,000 square feet is what's not subject to MIH under the zoning for accessibility text.
So you're getting an additional 34,000 square feet. Is that right?
The 30 for the transit improvement.
Transit.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Arturo.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on the second change that was allowed, the base height and building height regulation change. When the FAR, and I'm on land use, so when we come back to land use, it'll be good that we saw this a second time.
Yeah.
Did this change your setback and base wall height requirements? I'm also just kind of curious why there is maybe no setback. There is a lot of vertical continuity here.
Yeah, so we'll be back to you with those actions. This has not been approved. We're applying for this at city planning, and we'll be back to you to show those in much more detail. The transit improvement bonus allows for you to seek a modification to the height and setback rules to accommodate the additional floor area. So what we are requesting at city planning, and we'll be back to the land use committee to show, is a modification of the maximum base height requirement to allow the sheer wall, which is consistent. My colleagues can speak to better, but consistent with the character of the neighborhood.
Okay.
Correct. Having the continuous street wall, obviously the buildings within Soho and to the south in Tribeca are more characteristically those sort of blocky forms without the elaborate setbacks. And so the decision was made that the having continuity at the street wall was helpful in terms of the overall design and developing sort of an appropriate strategy for the addition
Right,
within the Soho context. Yeah.
The pushback that you're going to get is that all those buildings are not this tall, right? That's
correct. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks.
One other question having to do with that north-facing facade. I think several of us do have concerns about how visually important what is essentially a secondary facade becomes due to where it is. And one just, questions of scale mean that, that may look very odd. That may look very odd to have this kind of looming lot line wall and, is it required that be seen as a lot line wall and as a secondary and treated in that way? Because it is peculiar.
Christopher, maybe you should
have that big, blank slate there.
Sure. I think, Christopher, maybe you could speak to the lot line restrictions, because there's limitations on what you can do on the lot line. Yeah.
Yeah, so certainly windows would only be allowed not contributing to light and air. So they'd be fire rated windows only, for example, right? If we wanted to do windows, a building like this, these may have operable windows, but they're not legal light and air for that use. So we were just working within the bounds of how to get the apartment units to have that legal light and air from the main facades, not through the lot line facade. And then as far as projections, there's really, the lot line, nothing can extend past the lot line itself. So it really does kind of serve for a less articulated depth facade.
So you could have windows, they wouldn't be meaningful in terms of satisfying any kind of light and air requirements, but they could exist, but they would be kind of shallow. Is that correct?
Yeah, they'd be a little shallower for certain, and they would be they'd be non-operable, fire rated, and not contributing to light and air.
Can
And
you
are you
cite the
limited
percentage
in terms of a
offhand?
percentage, Christopher?
There is a limit to the percentage of lot line windows. I don't know the exact number, but it is a little limiting.
Right.
Part of it too is just, you know, dependent on where the core of the building is. So for instance, the image on the right, the bulkhead here is directly above the elevator. So the center of this building has an elevator shaft running directly adjacent to the lot line.
I'm sure you can see what it is that is, you know,
Yeah.
unusual about that kind of scale of a lot line window.
Christopher,
And
can you go
what
back
it
to that
looks
other
like it's
view to the south?
assuming that
Just-
the next 3 or 4 buildings are going to be demolished and another building put up.
What?
It's like waiting for another building.
Well, I think if you look at 401 Broadway in the distance on the left, right, like that has that the brick patterning on the lot line because there's no windows there, and the only windows are in that sort of first 20 feet or something of the where the setbacks are, and so that's a kind of fairly typical condition that you see on lot lines where the scale of the new build or the scale of a building exceeds what's surrounding it.
Yeah, I mean, that's not in Soho, but it does break things up. You know, if you're using, you know, just looking at it, you know, you can see quite clearly that what the difference is in terms of breaking it up versus that kind of big blank slate, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think that that's what the arches were attempting to do
Of
as
course,
well.
I understand that,
Yeah.
obviously. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I'll
Anybody
be
else?
clear on it at least, and we can move on if we haven't solved it.
I think we're good in the room. Yeah.
Okay. I have no other questions. If so, I think they could be answered by reference to the materials. Thank you very much for the presentation. We feel like we have a good understanding of the building.
Well, it looks like.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate
It looks
it.
like Pete raised his hand one more time, so we should probably let's call on Pete before we move to our business session. Pete, go ahead.
Okay, briefly, please.
Yeah, thank you. The transfer of development rights was a big surprise. Are there any other development rights from nearby buildings that have been incorporated into this development?
These are the only ones.
And is that transfer, has that been recorded on Acris yet?
No,
I'm sorry?
no, it's just a plan transfer.
Do you know when it will be recorded?
It won't be recorded until we have the approvals.
The air rights transfer has to be approved?
No, the new design needs to be approved.
The new design. And
So the air rights transfer is contingent upon the approval of this plan?
Of course.
Of course? Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Well, but
You-
why?
You live in a different world than I do.
Well,
Thank you
no,
very much.
if the commission approves the project as proposed, then they have the ability to accommodate the area of that air rights transfer.
I see. It seems like there are any number of aspects of this plan that are contingent and are not yet finalized, including the MTA and any number of other things. Is that correct?
They are all
awaiting. It's a very complicated project requiring a lot
Understood.
of approvals from a lot of agencies, and we are here talking about the landmarks approval. And yes, we need other approvals.
Okay, understood. So the answer to that the approvals are not yet set between the agencies and the developer, and they're all contingent.
Well, there's a sequence that this has to go through, and landmarks, because we're adding bulk to the building, landmarks is the first pathway, and then everything else gets finalized based on what is approved at landmarks.
Okay, and just to clarify, we were told that this is simply discretionary, that there is nothing extra being added, that everything that's being done.
Thank you. This is the second.
Okay, but Chanel, this is how it was presented to the public by the office, that there's nothing special here, that it's all, they get it all. And that's not what we're learning. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All right,
Okay.
we can move in, we can thank the applicants. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Move to our business session now.
Can we do this one first since it's
Up to you, Chanel, sure.
you will have. Am I crazy or did you all swap places? It's a
I
mirror image of the last time I saw
had
it.
to charge my laptop, so I had to get over here.
If we could go in order, please. I could find a blank spot on my thing. The base. The prior question was about the contemporary sort of off the rack infill in the ground floor. Is it thought to be, and the commission has approved it. Any comments?
Base.
First of all, if the commission has already approved it, it's been approved.
This is different from the prior one, and
Like
that they're,
regular, how much regularity? What is, are things too regular? And, and all these kinds of very subjective questions. I think in terms of the storefronts themselves, I thought that was a very interesting answer to the question I asked about the difference between the very much more kind of discrete signage of the 23 proposal
yes,
and this, explosion of signage, this like choose your own adventure signage of the 26 proposal. And, personally, I think the answer is, I think something somewhere in between,
it's an extension of the Times Square theory.
Is
that
something
you can't build if you don't put neon signs on it.
So I do think that amount of signage, that the signage is a way to create more visual variety, which I think is great. But but I think it's just excessive. I think it's just excessive.
So we want temperance with the signage, even within the Canal Street spirit.
Yeah, I think variety is great, but I think it's just excessive. Not that the variety is excessive, just the amount of signage is excessive.
One thing else, I kind of get where you're coming from, but also Canal Street is kind of excessive.
Yeah, which is why I think that note from the commission was good. I do.
Like right now, it's just a Bank of America banner going around the building.
I would hold that it draws more attention by being moderate rather than just adding to the clutter.
So you think?
Justify what we say.
So you like it more to be more exuberant the way it is?
No, I say if it's more moderate, it will help them to stand out more from the clutter.
It breathes so the signs can actually be distinguished from everything else.
Yeah.
And they're not blocking each other, which is what happens elsewhere.
The excessive bright signage that we're talking about on Canal Street is east of Lafayette, what is called Chinatown. That's why we call this the Soho Chinatown rezoning. So the excessive signage might be okay on Mott Street with all those diamond stores and restaurants and stuff. But when you look at Worcester Street, Green Street, West Broadway, it's dark at night.
Yeah.
So is this Chinatown or Soho? Well,
Well,
DCP says it's Soho, so I think we should not have bright lights.
I mean, I think,
Within the concept, we would like it to be treated moderately.
yeah,
Moderate.
and
Yeah.
Yeah.
minimal lighting, to no lighting.
Now to the facade.
well, I think we should talk about the arches.
Yeah.
I think we need to.
Moving up the facade, we're already at the top. I get the idea of taking the entrance, but it looks like which one is it? One of the Madison Avenue buildings. It looks like a copy of it. I can't think of which building it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it again, there's inspiration for arches around the neighborhood,
Right.
but they're just
Well, in the building itself, so the art, the inspiration's clear.
right. But the top three are just too tall. It's almost like those buildings where they have the single pillars, but you can walk in them. Those kind of historical outdoor spaces. I'm thinking like in LA but it's more, the height differential. It's an open space where you enter through the arches. Not so much at the top of the building.
Is the arch treatment the problem, or the repetition of it, or I don't know.
For me, the problem is that I really appreciate the introduction of the concept of arches in that they bring, a very Soho-esque motif into this building. And I appreciate that. It's just something about these particular ones that aren't quite landing in terms of proportion and effect, that don't really, it's like this, the idea of the arch is great, but I know that Arturo picked up on something that felt a little off, and you did too. So I think we need to explore what that is.
Would it be that they're so flat that an eyebrow kind of?
That's part of it. I think that is part of it. And I think that kind of flatness contributes to a sort of a more midtown kind of quality. And I think that's.
As opposed to it being set back a little bit, those top
more,
3 floors being just maybe 2 floors.
And that would be a less abstract interpretation of the section of the building that's being.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because that entrance is very distinctive and something. Eyebrow's not the right thing, and molding's not the right thing, but it's some depth.
Yes.
The top. That's what really bothers me, the repetition. The arch upon arch. As I explained, it just looks like it stops arbitrarily, and then there's not very much more of the repetition.
Actually, it's so tall. Who's going to look up there?
Oh, I think so.
Are we going to talk about the height eventually?
It just doesn't.
Yes.
It doesn't end. There was one, I have no idea where it is in the deck, but that it had almost a building on top of it that really, or it felt more like a penthouse or something to. in the way that on a modest building, a top element, whatever it is, takes care of the building. But this building is so tall, unless it's going to be a Seagram building that's intended not to have a termination, it just needs to terminate. I don't know that we suggest what to do, but and we just ask that it be importance, the word that keeps coming to mind.
Right.
An important termination.
And one that just, resonates with the character and architecture of Soho. I think that's what makes it so difficult to kind of put your just get the words out about what it is about the height, the facade, the 3-floor penthouse with a bulkhead on top that doesn't just kind of like pay respects to the architectural tradition, even though I appreciate a more contemporary take.
I hesitate to say maybe it should be set back.
That's one option.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think there's just generally, I think, more depth.
Same as below, and contrast.
Can I ask Brian a question?
Sure.
Brian, what do you, in your professional, personal opinion, think about the way that the brick transitions into terracotta? Because I think that is an interesting element, but it's also making me a little confused and unsure about it.
I appreciate the question. It is an unusual treatment, and I think that Morris Ochman is kind of well known for that. Working with some molding, you might say, of materials in a non-traditional way. However, that doesn't mean that it always works or that it's always right. In this case, that crown that you are talking about on top of an arched termination cornice, it does seem too much, and I don't understand how the zoning law does not enforce setbacks for such a tall building. Thank you again for opening the question. The bulkhead is totally meaningless. It distracts from the building. It doesn't add a thing. It's very irregular. It's a different material. There's nothing about it that adds to the building, and yet it's a prominent part.
I can't hear you.
Oh boy.
Okay, have you finished, Brian?
Well, I will repeat anything that you want me to repeat.
I heard it all.
Okay. Yes, I'm finished.
Okay, are we going to make any recommendations about this? That's what the point we are now.
Well, I mean, the elephant in the room, of course, is what Sean just brought up, is the height. And so
I'm sorry, are we going to make a recommendation about the terracotta brick juxtaposition before we move
on? I don't think they got it right.
I just haven't heard anything clear to be said about it.
I don't know if that's subjective.
The height.
To me.
Yeah.
Okay, it's clear why it's as high as it is. It's to a certain point because of Soho rezoning with a cap, if you will, of transit on top that was illustrated in that one of the last slides they brought up. It's tall and we can say so, but we've talked about ways to mitigate, if you will, or if they will.
You know,
But
he's
I don't
getting,
know what we want to say or can say properly about the height.
that it's way too tall. That's how we could begin to say. It's taller than any other building in Soho. They're comparing it to Midtown Towers.
Oh,
And-
that we know, but can you compare it to ones that have been built with the bonus? That's really the comparison.
Right, this is a new territory because they are allowed, this zoning did happen and there is this bonus. So those are facts. That's not, I think,
But just
we
because
may have issues with that, but that is what it is.
But just because they can doesn't mean they should. They don't have to have they don't have to grab the entire transit bonus. They don't have to have the sale of air rights from the next building.
Well, that gets into other territories having to do with balance of what is good in the community and who gives what and what, give and take.
As a return
all
on
of that.
on investment, it's going to be about he'll make about it's going to be 34,000 additional square foot. And let's say at 2,000 built out square foot, that's $68 million in increased return on investment. I think maybe you can make a little less money and lower the height a couple of floors. The subway station is not going to cost $68 million. Maybe half that. So we're talking 10 million.
We are maybe at the thing of complaining because the millionaires don't pay the tax on the break to which they're entitled, and they take it.
No, I'm just saying it's
the law that needs to be attacked if there's a complaint, not the fact that people abide by it. And I'm sure they were to the square inch.
But I also wonder because
I just don't think we have a justification for complaining about something that
on the issue
is, if you will, statutory, and asking them not to follow the statute as it's written.
Right. So on the issue of height, if height is something that I think people visually, this maybe is less appealing to them, is we can talk about things like terracing or setbacks or ways to make it look less like a big vertical block. Right. Because I think that's visually what a lot of folks see is like it's just one giant rectangular prism as opposed to something with like detail and leveling. And
I couldn't agree with you more, Arturo. I do think that the problem that you have and that many have and that we undoubtedly all have when we will look at this giant building is that
too tall.
It's unnecessarily tall.
But if the law has changed and this is what the law allows, we must all abide by what this law is. And if there are problems, I, for instance, have a problem with the 34,000 extra square feet being exempted from the calculation of affordable housing, but that's not a landmarks issue. And that's what the law says. So that's just my opinion, but that's not relevant here, I don't think. But what is relevant here is the fact that the building is monolithic. It appears monolithic and which makes it out of context in the neighborhood and what can be done. And I think things like setbacks and these kinds of things will create more variety, a little bit of breathing room, and will help, ease the visual impact of this very large building. I think that is something that we can talk about within the purview of landmarks, and that doesn't disrespect anybody's right to build a bigger building, and it doesn't, disrespect the law, and it doesn't disrespect our very committed concern for our historic districts. So I think that's where we've got some, I think that's where from my point of view, that's where our voice needs to be.
And the just something example of the arch, suggesting that there is a shadow line, which there
Right.
is, which might register on a 5-story building, but it just hasn't gone far enough. Whatever efforts there are.
Right. So I think any efforts to create a little bit more depth, more variety, less, and I think that leads to the discussion of that lot line wall and our.
Okay, that's.
I know we'll get to that.
Is there anything? But I'm happy to do it. Anything on the? I think we've got the concept. It's a very conceptual thing we're saying, but
right.
I can word it. Okay. Okay, the lot line. I think that's a total disaster.
I agree. And we've learned that there is a possibility for windows, we know that they won't meet any requirement for light and air, but that doesn't mean that they won't be visually important. And it doesn't mean that they won't provide light or air. Well, maybe not air if they're not operable, but certainly light. But I think, we could see in the example that was pointed out, down the street, that some interruption in that big blank. I mean, I appreciate the nod to that with the, arched motif on that wall, but I don't think that's going to do the trick. I mean, when you think it's a question of where it's placed, that north facade is like, hello, Soho, I'm here. And I have very little to say, but I'm very, but I'm proud. I mean, I think that needs to be developed somehow.
The same thing happened in Lafayette Street.
Where?
The Lafayette Street north lot line.
Yeah.
They made some treatment, but it was and they certainly don't read as blind arches, which might be an idea. In the way that a blind window clearly has depth to it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it can't hang over, it can recess. Maybe they'll lose 5 inches of inside space.
Right.
Right. And I think this actually just goes back to our argument about like layers and separation,
exactly.
Wall height, setbacks, because if it had a natural breakage point at the 5th floor or the 6th floor, then you could have some horizontal changes in color or brick, maybe, something that would give a semblance of an adjacent building, an adjacent shadow from a building, instead of just these long walls that are monotonic. And they tried to do something with the arches, so I do applaud that, but there's still a little bit more they could probably do.
Right, and that would bring conceptually what it is that we love about the Soho architecture into this building in terms of that kind of variety.
If we can recall the building beside the merchant's house, I was shocked at how much they said it was a permitted amount, but the amount of window space, the square footage of lot line windows there, really relieved it a great deal.
Yeah, it's not nothing. Yeah. Yeah.
So let me get it straight.
I'm just looking to see if there are other sections I had. I don't have anything else. I mean, I don't have any other topics.
Yeah, I think the notes I made were around the top, the arches, the sort of the regularity, the need for more variety, and the problems with the lot line
Right.
window. Those were the notes that I had made.
And what about the height? We're just ignoring the height?
Well, I think we certainly have to honor the community testimony in the resolution. But if that is what the law, I mean, I think we circle back to if that is what the law allows.
But the law also allows, as Pete mentions up here, the Landmarks Commission.
We are asking for things to mitigate the height. That's how we're dealing with it.
Please don't interrupt me. The Landmarks Commission is allowed to, they're permitted. They don't have to give a developer everything he wants. It doesn't say that in the law. What it says, it should be in the context of the neighborhood, and this building's out of context. You cannot deny that. Are we going to not say that it's out of context? At least let Landmarks know that we think it's too tall, or are we just going to fall down and have it get steamrolled? Is it too tall? Does it fit in the district or not? That's a legitimate question.
I mean, it's at the end of the district too, it's not like it's square in the middle. It is on Canal. So it is.
Thank you. We're looking at Broadway. Let's look on the east-west axis. If you look at this on a Canal Street, this is way, way too big for anything on Canal Street. Most of the facade is on Canal Street. This is not a Broadway building. It's a Canal Street building. It's at least 100 feet on Canal Street and what, 30, 40, 50 feet? No, it's 200 feet on, 100 feet on Canal and 50 feet, at least 50 feet on Broadway. So it's a Canal Street building. It's out of context and from Canal Street.
Sean, I don't think there's agreement with your position that we should dispute the height.
I can't hear you.
I don't think there's agreement with your position. I mean, you've expressed it well.
Okay.
But we don't have agreement on it.
And I think we can include something in the resolution, looking to the commission to see to what extent they can limit the height while still allowing, if that place even exists, because, it is very important to have an accessible subway station. And if the law is written in a way that gives make it extra sweet for the developer in order for that to happen, that's how the law is written. I mean, that's that. But I think we could put something in the resolution, definitely acknowledging that this is a very large building, that there's a lot of...
It's designed as a giant block, and that variety could help minimize the visual impact.
Right, exactly. So I don't think we should just ignore it, but I also don't think we can, just say, well, screw it, then let's not have, I'm
sorry.
Then let's not have, an accessible station, and then let's go back to how it was, and let's have six less units of affordable housing. And, those things are important too. I fully understand that they are not landmarks issues, but, we will also have to present this in front of the entire community board. We do not have a quorum. There will be further discussion of this. And I think that a position that is a little bit more flexible is entirely appropriate here.
And the commission have really talked a lot about in their meetings these bonus kind of things that enhance the community, and particularly with Lafayette Street, they spent a good deal of time on the affordable housing thing, and we're trying to be careful that they didn't come up with things that encroach upon that. So that though it's not a landmarks issue, it informs the discussion, and
But
I think we could say that we
to address something
that it's what steps can be taken to limit the first of all, it's out of scale. And what steps can be taken within the parameters to limit that,
There you
Exactly.
go.
rather than just saying
That's
chop it
what we're
off.
saying. Yeah.
But just to go back, okay, let's say they actually can get the maximum from the transit bonus, but what are they buying air rights from the existing building? So just because they do that, that's not mandated that they should be able to build high just because they bought it. Do you follow me?
Well, that's a zoning issue, and this will go to the zoning.
It's gonna go to land use.
I mean, yeah.
It's zoning, it's just a
Land
real
use,
estate.
that's
LPC.
But that's a land use.
That's not a
That's
reason
a
to,
land use.
but it's not, you're saying, well, the law says they can get a bonus for a transit facility. But it doesn't say they have to get a bonus for transfer of air rights. That's not in the law. It's just a transfer of property.
You mean that the bonus would apply to the transfer from the additional air rights?
Say that again?
I don't, I'm not even sure that this, again, is the right form for this.
Yeah.
Are you asking whether the bonus that they're getting from the transit, if that should be able to apply to the land use air rights transfer? The air rights transfer?
From the adjacent building?
Yeah. Is that
Well, they're two separate things.
Okay.
Let's say, let's give it to them. You get a transit bonus of 34,000. Okay, but and let's give them the additional floors for that. All right, for argument's sake. But why give them additional 4 floors because they bought the adjacent neighbor's air rights?
Okay. Got it.
That's a floor or 2 right off there.
Well, we could put something in the resolution about, seeing if there's any wiggle room there having to do with that to reduce. Again, these are land use.
Yeah, I don't
think it
really.
belongs in this resolution.
So then let's
They're
talk about.
Yes, and it will go to land use, and Arturo, our very own Arturo, is on land use, so we'll have some continuity of thinking,
I
some
will pass the
holistic.
message along.
So we'll have some holistic
So
thinking
let's-
on this.
It's just, therefore, this is landmarks. So let's talk the landmarks issue, that this is out of scale.
And we're dealing with full.
We're talking about
full
how to
block.
reduce the impact visually because it's out of scale.
That's just,
The out of scale, we're talking in circles
That's
here,
just
so
talking.
Yeah, we are.
we're just talking in
okay,
circles. Yeah.
let's move on.
Let me just see that I've got all the. I can say height with bonuses and transfer. That altogether is what makes the height. And within those regulations, can anything be done to mitigate it?
Yeah.
The visual impact.
The answer is no, because it's built the full lot. There's nowhere to put anything. It either has to be made smaller or chopped off or chopped in the corner or something.
But anyway, I do feel strongly that things having to do with, setbacks, depth, adding windows. I mean, each of these things are elements that have the potential to make
Exactly,
a
the mitigation.
friendlier, more Soho-esque kind
More
of
pleasant.
building, a building that is more rooted specifically in our historic district than what is in front of us. I think it's not, I think it's it's a good start, but I think it needs to go another few steps in order to make it specific to our historic district and not something that you might find in another city even, or certainly in another, in another part of our city.
And a setback would make it higher, but
But less visible.
looming.
Yeah.
Well, I have something to write about.
Okay. I think we've covered that.
Otherwise, we weren't able to start at 5:30. I just beat that to death, and I'll pursue more because that was the whole thing, was to avoid knowing how this would
Here
be.
at
I
5:30,
was
I
so
wish we were.
surprised at the few number of public
It's on the calendar at
comment.
6:30.
But it came out, sometime it came out. I didn't get it. I thought the notification
You
was
sent an email saying 6:30.
when?
I don't know.
Today?
No.
A few days ago?
I think so. I can't. I'm sorry.
Oh, I got here at 5:30. Lucky I live
That's a
across the
shame.
street, basically.
All right, Chenault, we still have agenda items 1 and 2.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Okay.
I'm just shocked that they want to take the thing up, but I think we should recommend against it.
Against what? Removing the fire escapes?
Yep.
Why?
They're there, they're historic.
No, they're not.
You think we should?
Yeah, it beautifies the building.
Well, they're not original. They are historic in the sense that they were added some time ago, but they are not original to the building.
They obscure the facade. Let's say the facade was, let's say someone wanted to add a Juliet balcony on a blank wall. We wouldn't allow that.
Yeah, I don't actually have, I don't have a problem with removing the fire escapes. I would if they were, gorgeous,
Beautiful.
decorative. We have had, as we have had, in some Soho buildings. But I don't think this is that situation.
Okay, we should say because of all the testimony, provided that they don't impede the fire regulations.
Right, and just, confirming the sequencing and all of that.
I don't know why he's spending all that money, the landlord, to remove it.
And the
It's his money.
the rehearing.
Okay.
The whatever number it is, other Grand Street, 151.
I know Arturo had some concerns about the color, but since the color was based on a historic paint sample, I'm not sure there's much we can say about it.
It's just an I mean, it's come up time after time, and it always is said it's the rendering or the picture of the.
I mean,
we should just say what the color should be.
Well,
Or what we understand it. If if what we understand the color to be is the color, then I think we're in order with it. Is that not right?
Yeah, and it's had various colors, and I think that was what I was trying to get at. That where did they pull the sample from? Because even looking at the historic photos, there have been cases where the colors are different.
Yeah.
But I think just based on applications we've had in this committee since I've been on there, the two most common colors are Essex green and Lafayette green, and it really just ends up being, do they want a lighter green or do they want a darker green? And obviously, not every building has to have that color.
Oh no!
But right? But it looks very nice in the dark green.
You could learn about the history of facade paints in Soho.
Uh-huh.
Originally, when I came on here 30 years ago, they were supposed to mimic masonry. That's why I was told, they're all light colored to mimic marble and sandstone.
Supposed to mimic what?
Marble and sandstone. You don't have to write this down. This is just so. I know a little about the paint. I'm getting my building facade painted now. And originally in around 1980, when a lot of the buildings were being developed, there was a paint company that would paint buildings real cheap, but he got a real deal on green paint. It's a true story. A Greek guy, Greek immigrant. So a lot of the buildings were painted green because of this guy got a deal on green paint. Joseph Pell Lombardi, who we all know is a distinguished architect, did a lot of study on, he did a lot of paint samples. And originally the buildings when they were built in the 1880s were like the Victorian buildings you see in San Francisco, all different crazy wild colors. But that's why you saw here red and
Yeah.
so
Those were like primers, I think, right? I think the reds were primers.
well, Lombardi, do you know Lombardi? He started restoration architecture almost.
The reds are primers here.
Yeah, that could be original colors.
No, it says primer.
Oh, it does? Yeah. But anyway.
Is there anything else to be said about this?
But Lombardi said originally the historic colors were quite bright, not muted sandstone colors. So whatever color they want is kind of, as long as it's not pink. It's my feeling.
Yeah, I was just.
Yeah, but green is acceptable.
Yeah.
Just a funny story. Why they're all green.
Well, I'm okay not to make us think about it.
It's hard to know.
That's the idea. The penthouse was okay. It was all very wobbly, the original thing about the penthouse. I think somebody thought we had to say something bad about it, so that was but it looked fine as they showed it.
What was the original
lighter color? I don't like black.
And a couple of inches here and there of
it's just a lighter palette.
Is there anything else to be said about any application?
No, to get back to the color issue just for one moment, it is so hard to evaluate color. And I mean, the renderings themselves obviously can't faithfully reproduce the colors. And then we're looking at them on our screens. So really making color evaluations is very tricky. And in this particular case, where I believe this is a very dark green that's being proposed, it's really reading as black.
It's reading as black.
And I think that's where our issue is. And so perhaps we could say that, we are concerned that the color as rendered does not reflect any green, that it appears to be entirely black, and that we would hope that the color ultimately is one of those historic colors where you can see that reads very dark, but where you can see the green in the color.
That's exactly almost what I've written during the thing. And the fortunate thing about colors is that staff are very, very good.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Normally an application lists a catalog paint that it is.
Yeah, and this
staff looks to be sure that's
and this one does too. And this application does too. It names.
Oh, good. Okay, I didn't
shade or something.
Yeah, it's called like nightshade or something like that.
Nightshade.
What?
Dark as night.
Dark as night.
Sorry, Chanel. And what was?
Has that been in the application then?
Chanel, what was the conclusion of the penthouse? I'm unclear as to what the position was last time and what we're saying this time.
It's visibility.
Right, it was approved by LPC. It was approved, the prior application was approved by LPC. And, what was confusing was that the agenda says review modifications to the prior
Okay.
presentation for the rooftop addition, but apparently that's in error and there are no modifications.
Oh, I must remember to redo the.
Yeah. So that's what's confusing about
Got it.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
This
Okay.
is a pro forma thing because it expired. There is no news about next month, oddly.
What do you mean?
No applications come in and nothing is, no, nothing and is whenever.
We have 3, possibly 4 for next month already.
Oh,
Breaking news.
are there any whale size ones?
I don't have that information. Florence mentioned it earlier today. But I don't, I think
haven't gotten them
one
yet,
is not trivial, but I don't know the rest.
We'll keep out, keep
The
track
rest
of
of the
that.
weary.
Yeah.
Okay, we're finished.
All right. Thanks, Chanel.
Thanks, Chanel.
Take care.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
I should finish tomorrow, Susan.
Okay.
But I'm
All
not
right.
sure.
I'll
what time.
be around. I have a union meeting at night, but I'll be around during the day.
Okay.
Wow.
Bye.
And Mark's closing us down, or somebody is.